It's the 7th of January, 2021. Frosty day. We had a heavy frost last night, about 1 in the afternoon, so a lot of that is gone. And we'll start here at the front of the house, and you can see those two beds which we've just really tidied up. And here on the front bed, we have some spring daffodils already. So these have been out since pretty much the beginning of the year, and you can see there's plenty of spring bulb activity in this bed. The other thing you can see is that we've brought up some manure from Drummety Moor House. So lots of activity there. The manure is breaking down very well. So speaking of spring bulbs and spring activity, we'll go up to the rest of the garden this way. Okay, this you might get kind of blinded by the sun here. So this is a little area where it's very heavily shaded in the summer, but at this time of the year there's a lot of spring interest. So we have a hellebore, Christmas rose of course, and some more hellebores here. Of course the hellebores are facing the south, which is facing away from me, but some hellebores there, a lot of them up along there. We call this, as a joke, we call this the spring walk. So a lot of hellebore activity there, and these self-seed all over the place, and then we've transplanted a lot of them, and then they what's the word? They mix with each other. Ignore the plastic. So you get all kinds of new varieties. Here's a nice little thing in flower. A cyclamen, the nice dark flower. Okay, let's go back down here. And that'll bring us up to what will really be, if I get the camera going the right direction, along here. So this is where we have a lot of spring bulb activity, and you can see some birds beginning to come back. So there's a nesting box there by the big window. We had blue tits in that last year, and on just the day before New Year's I saw them checking that nesting box out again. So actually the frost is more or less gone. There's a lot of spring activity here in terms of daffodils, primroses, snowdrops. This daffodil here is our earliest one. That was in flower on Christmas Eve, the one on the right. And it was the same last year. It was the first one out. And in fact, right next to it, just here, that's a lovely dark hellebore with a red flower. And then back over here, I passed some, these are cyclamens that are really doing very well, spreading around, not in flower at this time of the year. They're, the way there are two times of flowering. The path is quite frosty, but it'll take us down to the next part of the garden. You can see a lovely hellebore here That's actually the parent of a lot of the ones that I showed you over on the other walk. Let's go down along here. So we have that garden. That's mostly planted with flowers that are blue. You can see our Echium forest there to the right. We'll see that again at the end of the walk. In this garden here, we're just getting ready to put manure there. And then over on this side, we have the lovely flower heads of Hydrangea Annabelle. They're a gorgeous thing that, you know, beautiful flower all through the summer, certainly the late summer, and then you get those very kind of architectural flower heads through the winter. Let me just step up here, come down, and you can see some of the early snowdrops here and over there. So from this area in particular, we lifted and divided a lot of those last year, and we've placed them around the garden. So we'll just go and have a look at the main place where they are. They're in this first year, there won't be too much activity, but we've put them along here so that you'll see them when you look out the big windows. And you can see there's plenty of spring bulb activity there with lots of things coming up. They're mostly daffodils. That's with the again, very architectural material there. That's the hosta that you gave us, that's from outside your door, the variegated one. So we left the flower stems in place, but along here you can see the spring bulbs coming through, including one of the snowdrops that I put there last year. Then a very nice, this thing here is a geranium that will, it's kept some interest during the winter with that foliage, and that will be lovely later in the year. Then over here we have some snowdrops just coming out here. Behind that we have a fuchsia, which we just planted out last year. Very nice ornamental fuchsia. More snowdrops here, and then next to it we've got the early flowering primroses. So this whole bank will be full of primroses later in the spring, and then we've got primroses and daffodils. The things that are in flower here are heuchera. So the flower's just finishing, a nice dark foliage, and then we've got some hellebores about to open right there. But you can see lots of snowdrops. They'll take another year or two to settle in, but then they should spread quite prolifically, so we should get quite a lot of them. And then some daffodils along here. Okay, we'll the cat's joining us. We'll go up along here. So on the side there's Montbretia, which is coming back. We had originally planted daffodils through the Montbretia, but the Montbretia totally outcompeted. Like there are very few of those daffs surviving. Something nice up here on the right. So cyclamens that are in flower this time. Very pretty ones. and a cat investigating everything. Okay, if we go up along here, we've got the what are really herbaceous borders during the summer. This year we put in those grasses to give a kind of winter interest. They're called, they're very pretty, they're called pheasant's tails. So that there's something going on here in the winter. And then down at ground level, that's a poached eggplant. And again in spring, that'll be full of flowers and lots of materials for bees to deal with. This other herbaceous border, these seed heads in the foreground are sedum, and again very architectural. So we're just in the process of cutting back all the dead growth where necessary. We've got a sage that's still in leaf there. That was quite late to come into flower and leaf, but it then keeps going quite well, as you can see, on the 7th of January. This is a bit bedraggled, but looking very healthy. That's an acanthus. So we haven't had an acanthus flower yet, but it is sending up offshoots. There's a little offshoot of it just there. So it seems to be settling in very well. So that's the two herbaceous borders. Then over on this side, actually this is a myrtle, a Chilean myrtle that produced edible fruit, which were really, really nice. Kind of a strawberry vanilla flavor to them. Here's another acanthus on the corner here, and then behind that we have the tree peony. And the tree peony, we've had it for 20 years. We brought it from Clonsilla. It was one of the first things we planted there. It's been in a pot, so this is going to be its first season, actually in its final planted out place. And I think it'll do very well there against a south-facing wall. So it should prosper in that location. Over here, that's the Santolina. I was going to say wormwood, but no, I don't think it is wormwood. But anyway, it's got it's cotton lavender. So it's got lovely yellow flowers. And this little thing next to it is a very delicate sage, blue, and it's actually still in flower. You can see the blue flower there. And then my favorites, I'll get out of the shadow, the sea holly, not those two cactus looking ones which are rather ugly, but the little thing here is dwarf eryngium, and you can see the withered flower spikes. They are spikes of flowers. So the eryngium is the sea holly, the blue one that you'd be familiar with, like Miss Wilmot's Ghost and so on. So we'll go through the veg garden. Not a lot of activity in here yet. Obviously it's just in its winter garb. And we have a lot of clearing up to do. This was our bed of potatoes where we tried the experiment of no dig. So you just put mulch and plant directly into the mulch. But we planted too many and then didn't harvest them on time. But it worked quite well. Over here we have a new bed of asparagus that did very well this year. And this is the only thing that's been planted so far this year, and it's garlic. So they went in October, and you can see that quite a few of them are up at some level, particularly down this end of the bed. Some of the cloves are more advanced than others, but even up here, you can see some green shoots there Yeah, all the way up. So, you know, they're a bit slower than others, but they're coming. Then what else do we have over here? We have leeks there beyond towards the compost heap that been doing very well. Some leeks there. This is the first year we actually had a really good year with leeks because we tried them before. Oh yeah, the artichokes there settled in very well. We tried leeks before, but we got rust in our very first year. But we haven't had that problem since. So we're back down here. Let's have a quick look here to the right. So we've got the in the foreground here. There's a lot of crocus activity. So you can see, where are they? All the crocuses coming up there and there. So they'll be out first, and then beyond them there with you can see the hydrangea that's finished, but all around the base of the hydrangeas, that's all poached eggplant. So there'll be a lot of flowers there. Let's see what's down in this direction. This is Buddleia that's still in leaf. Some traffic going by. There's construction work in the village, and they'll be building there. They haven't been told to go home. Well, they've been told to go home from Friday. I don't know if you can see this with the sun, but this is an ornamental quince, and it's in flower. And actually you can see both fruit and flower on that one. Now the quince has gone mad altogether, as you can see there, so we need to cut that right back to the wall, and actually now is the time to do it. Then over here we have kind of orchard area, so we have those are hazels, nut producing hazels, full of catkins. And then below that, with the frame around them, are the black currants. And let's just go down along here. These steps could be icy, so I'll go rather slowly. So here at the base of the wall, there'll be daffodils. You can see them coming up there at the end all along. We've cut back the black currants already. We're doing different experiments with pruning the black currants. Some of them we've just tried cutting them back to nothing, so then it skips a season before you get any more fruit, and then others we just take out a third. So at the base of the wall here you've got lots of daffodils coming back. That big exuberant looking thing there we got from that guy in Bunratty, and it's a type of daisy. I forget the name of it. It's something like eryngium, but it's not eryngium. You can see it's still in flower on the 7th of January, and it's fantastic. It self-seeds. It's very spready, which is what we want down here. And then another interesting thing just here is, well, there are two saxifrage. So the saxifrage here in the middle, that came originally from the man up in the Burren, Caherbridge Garden. He gave us a lump of that, and it's a more ordinary saxifrage, London Pride. But then all around it, up here at the back, is a lovely variegated one that I must admit we took as a slip, but you can see it goes everywhere, and it was everywhere when we took it. It's from the fernery at Fota, and we have it in two locations, and it's doing really well. So we'll go down in this direction. This is my favorite view of the whole complex of houses and sheds here, and we're back to the birdhouse. Okay, let's go down this way. Actually, to the left of the shed, oops, and down, you have a whole bed of that saxifrage. That's the original bed of saxifrage from the man at Caherbridge garden. So that's where we put it to start with. Okay, down past our cart, which has collapsed this winter, so it's become a lesson in how these things decay. And we'll go out along the lane. So we have the well here on the left, and then a spring line coming along the rock outcrop, which is just here at the end of the wall. So you've got bare rock there, and then it's perpetually wet underneath that, so water just comes out there, and unfortunately then goes out and down, out the lane and down the road where it freezes. So we have in this weather we have a frost patch out there the whole time. These are lovely campanula, still in flower on the 7th of January, and they've been there a couple of years, so spreading nicely. Sorry, there's some traffic going past. Actually, let me go back. I missed something under. So we have a rose there. You can see more spring bulbs coming up there. They're the miniature daffodils. And then actually in behind the gate here, I don't know if you can see, yeah, you can see there's a very stout trunk of a rose, and it's got thorns on it. That's a Kiftsgate rose, which will put flowers all, on the south, like it's going to go between all the trees over there. It's a very vigorous climbing rose. Okay, we'll go down here, and you can see a kind of a tangle of what looks like bushes and stuff there, and that is a kiwi. And there are a couple of kiwi plants over here. So there's another one, let me point it out, just here, climbing up that tree. And last year I think we got a single kiwi fruit, but this year we have quite a lot of them, and I'll show you one of them here. So they're small, but they are edible. They're not quite as juicy as the ones you get in the shops, but given that we're growing them in an environment that isn't ideal, they actually work very well. It's a bit damp down here, so we're down now at the first pond that we made, which is actually the upper one there. And the water source here is a spring that's coming out from under that rock. They're feeding this pond, which nature's really taking over, and then it drops down into this level. And then our next big project is to get the outflow to match up with the other ponds, which are in the distance here. So we've got to continue that along. At the moment it's just going down onto the road. So let's just make our way up here. So this is all, we made a lot of progress, and it was all Adham's work along here this year. So you can see a path and then the beginnings of a bed on the right, and we had planted this up over the years, but it's really taken shape this year. So at the center there you've got the camellia that you gave us. It's a white camellia, beautiful white flower, and that's full of buds, and you can see it's settled in there very well. Beyond it there's again that hydrangea Annabelle, and then just up here, ignore the black plastic, which is the work in progress of another pond there, but this is where the stream comes down under the laneway, and then comes along here, so you can see the stream heading off to the big pond there. In the foreground we've got the Castle Townsend, one of the two Castle Townsend myrtles that we have, and that just put out one flower in 2019, but it was full of flowers in 2020, and here we are on the 7th of January and it still has one of them, which is right there, and then actually some fruit as well. This one has the non-edible kind of black fruit. You can see the echiums are doing very well, even with all the frost. And then this is going to be full of primroses in another year or two. You've got some that are already in flower there, but they're spreading quite prolifically along here, so they really like it. You can see the pond there in the background. You can see the pond best at this time of the year. You can't really see it in the summer because of course the water level goes way down, but it's a shame, like, you know, when you'd spend most time in the garden is when it's at its weakest, but you know, we spend time in the garden at this time of the year too. So here we've got an oak tree which is really settling in very well. It's planted there about 2 years. Another one which had a bit of an accident, but the top of it was high. It's a strange shape. That one came from Alkmaar in the Netherlands. And then between them we've got all the hazels. So, you know, there's a lot of woodland kind of growing in here. Another couple of years you won't really be so conscious of the road and so on, because this will be much more wooded than it is now. The ground is quite frozen underfoot, and the big pond is also quite, well, the south side of it is quite frozen. Shows you how cold it is because that water is moving. In the foreground we have Bergenia. So originally Pather gave it to us, you gave it some to Pather, and then originally it came from Banny Cahan's house in Doon Queen. So it's nice to know the kind of heritage of those kind of plants. And you can see that one, like nothing I'd say would kill that. Like it's so strong, and it survived here for a long time. Like when we got it first, we literally just popped it out of the car and it wasn't dug in or anything. I'm sure it survived away. There was no problem. It didn't need to be planted out. It was able to survive very well as it was. So we'll come down along here. That's Breed Mannix's horse chestnut straight ahead, which is becoming a real triffid. On the left we have, that's a Gelder Rose that you gave us, and then next to it we have this evergreen is a Daphne, and it's actually flowering. You can see it there, and it hasn't opened yet, but that's a scented flower, so that should be quite nice. And then if we look back up along, as I say, ignore the plastic, that's going to become a footpath, but you can see how the hazels and the oaks are kind of growing in. And then down here to the right where the wheelbarrow is, this is where the pond that's going to link up to the other stream is going to be located. In fact, we've just started that, lining the the trough for the pond with carpet. That's the carpet that had been thrown up the back of Castle Townsend, and when the guys cleared the trees, we were able to resurrect that. So this is the pond that we did in April 20. Was it 2020 or 2019? I think it was 2019 actually. And so that's going to, the cat jumping over it there, that's going to link up with that first pond that I showed you and drain all of that material out. Then we have the outflow of the big pond, so we have 7 little ones dropping down. You can hear the flow between those. Over on this side we have that very green grass in the foreground there is not ordinary grass, it's that ornamental quaking grass, which we got, Atham just picked up a tiny slip of it in Cork City. It had kind of gone feral from some bed they had planted on Morrison's Quay, and it's very spready, but it's great because it's got that quaking grass head, and then it's very easily limited. The tree there is a walnut, and then there's another walnut down there, and the echiums seem to be thriving very well there along the road. And then in between the echiums and where I'm standing, you can see those mounds of what look like earth. That's manure mounded up on the dahlias that are there. So we're not removing the dahlias in the winter, we're just letting them in place. That's a witch hazel in the circular stone setting there. And then we'll come up along the side of the pond. So more dahlias there, covered in mulched with manure, and then a very nice Japanese maple that very pretty during the summer with its very pale kind of lime colored leaf, and then you can see it's got that gorgeous bark for winter interest, this kind of reddish bark. On the left here we have the meadow, ignore the plastic in the background, the kind of meadow area that Atham planted up. So it's the base thing is those packets of meadow seeds, but we've also put in some of the wild orchids that we have around the place, and also the snake's head fritillaria, which we just bought from Margaret Griffin, and popped those randomly in there as well. Have a look at the azalea here. So as I said, it's the 7th of January, but that azalea is really ready to burst open. So like with all the spring bulbs and everything else, you really get a sense that the garden is kind of ready to go for the spring. So just have a look back down over the pond, and there's a car coming. And ignore the plastic, we'll try and cut the plastic view out of it. You can hear work going on in the background. This is where they're building down in the village. Okay, we've got a contorted hazel here. Again, one of the first things we bought in Clonsilla. It's been in a pot for going on 21 years. And then at the base of it, that little trefoil is the one from Castle Townsend that has delicate little flowers, and it seems to be surviving all winter long. And then we had a lot of native bluebells that were here when we moved in, so we've popped they were kind of in the driveway, which wasn't ideal. So we've popped them into that bed last year. So this will be their first year. That's the Photo saxifrage again. You can see it's a lovely thing with that kind of veined, variegated leaf, and it's doing very well in that spot. This plant here, these green sticks, are a thing called Kerria japonica, and they normally, it's one of the first things to flower, so it should flower the end of March, but it was actually, before we got the frost there recently, it was starting to flower. So you can see 2 flowers about to open there, and then I think the frost will have knocked it back. But I think the reason it's doing so well this year is that it had been planted in very unpromising circumstances, and then we knocked through this part of the wall last April, and I think just the new light and probably better soil introduced has really it's really done well in those circumstances. Up here on the wall we have the cat's kind of getting in the way, not anymore. Would you move away? We have a creeping thyme, and then we have, these are the orchids, the wild orchids, and you can see like that spotted leaf looks diseased, but it's not. And another one here, and they're spreading very well all over the place, which is great. And then we're back up to our broken down cart up along here then on the wall. So the stuff in the foreground is Iberis, and that will be a mass of white flowers that should drape down the wall in the spring. Sorry, I've put on a glove and the thing isn't as responsive to the glove. And then further along we have the self-seeded echiums. So like in October 2018, all the trees along here were topped. So a lot of light came in last summer, and the echiums have colonized the top of the wall here. And you can see that over here we have oh God, I'm really not doing this very well. The Echium forest that's at the back of the house. I changed the drum of gas last night, so that's the old one that you can see. But anyway, this is, a spot that the Echiums have found for themselves, and they're thriving there. So they obviously like the heat. I think it's a heat trap, like between the back of the house and the sheds in the summer. The camera's kind of facing south now, so you get the sunshine coming straight in there and just warms the place right up. So as I said, the Echiums have found their spot and they really like it. On the wall here we have not the native bluebells, but that one Hispanicum, which is the more less blue, more pink. They were here before we got here. Like, we had both varieties, the native one and the other one here. So they're really vigorous and they're coming up. This is the bit of the wall that we repaired in April 2020 during the first lockdown, and then our plan for the current lockdown, when the weather improves, is to finish that bit over here. Oops. So we've got just a little bit of work to do along there. So believe it or not, one of the reasons we didn't do that last year is that we've begun after how many years here? 15 years here. We finally begun to run out of stones. So, which is, something we thought would never happen. So anyway, there we go. Garden tour on the 7th of January, and we're back to the front of the house, and that's it. I'll see you soon.